Welcome to Hey Dr. Sue. So people submit their sex questions to me anonymously, and once a week I post one question and one answer. Do you have a sex question you've always wanted answered? Go ahead and check out the description for information on how to submit it anonymously.
This week's question is, what would you tell someone who is worried about their biological clock ticking? This is a tough question. Normally when I get a question about having children, I often start by asking the person who asked me if they even want to be a parent. And I got to tell you, some people are really thrown off by that question because they just live in a world where the expectation is that you're supposed to have children. But not everyone wants to have kids. And as our culture is changing, we see more and more people who are choosing to be childless. Some studies show that about 20% of people report that they don't want to have kids. And this might not seem like a high number, but it is definitely higher than it was even a decade ago. There's a lot changing about parenthood in the United States. Not only do we see people choosing to be child-free, but there are also those who are choosing to parent as either single parents or to co-parent with a person who's not a romantic partner. This is sometimes called platonic co-parenting. What does it look like? It's two people who are often friends who are not in a romantic relationship with each other, but who really want to be parents. And so they choose to have a child and raise it together. This often looks very different from the co-parenting we see among divorced people. In many of those relationships, there's a lot of negative feelings, which can make the co-parenting process a challenge. But for people who choose to platonic co-parent, it's often a much more positive situation for everyone involved. For some, this might not be an option. For people who believe that parenting should only happen within a marriage, not having gotten married already may lead to concern about their biological clock ticking. I love that this question was asked in a non-sex specific way because so often when the question comes up, it's focusing specifically on women. But I'm going to talk about how the biological clock issue may impact both men and women. And just keep in mind when I use those terms, I'm talking about sex assigned at birth, not how folks identify. For men, there may not be as strong a feeling of a biological clock ticking as there is for women. The reason for this is that barring illness or injury that prevents sperm from being produced, a man can theoretically produce viable sperm until the day he dies. So the pressure he might feel may be less about running out of time and more about wanting to be a father at a certain age. But it is important to note that while men can produce viable sperm through their adult lives, that doesn't mean that the quality or quantity of that sperm will be enough to be able to get a woman pregnant. Once a man hits like his mid-30s, the chances of getting someone pregnant start to decline. If this is a concern, he can opt to have his sperm frozen. This process can get expensive, and the sperm doesn't always survive the thawing process. For women, there's a similar concern about the impact of age. Once a woman turns 30, her ability to get pregnant starts to decline. Starting in her mid-30s, it will start to decline quickly. If she does get pregnant after 35, there's an increase in the rate of miscarriage. There's also an increase in the rate of genetic abnormalities of babies born to women who are 35 and older. For some women, the biological clock issue may be less about time running out and more about timing in general. She may want to get pregnant, but doesn't want to do so now. And there are so many reasons for this. Maybe her relationship doesn't feel stable and she doesn't want to bring a child into the mix. Maybe her career or her education are her primary focus. Maybe she isn't 100% sure she wants kids and doesn't want to rush into becoming a mom. Maybe there are health conditions that can make getting pregnant now difficult or even life-threatening. For a woman who may want to become pregnant later and is concerned about being able to do so, freezing her eggs may be an option, but there are two really important things to think about here. The first is that this process can be really expensive. First, you have to have the eggs removed and frozen, which can cost several $1,000s, and insurance may not cover any of this. Then the eggs need to be stored, which there is often a yearly fee for. Then there is a fee for the process of unfreezing them and then inseminating them and implanting them. This can all get really costly. This may not be an option for people because of their financial situation, or they may not have access to these facilities because of where they live. There also are some real religious and cultural issues here. Not all religions and cultures support the idea of using ART, which is assisted reproductive technologies. It's also important to keep in mind that the process will often not succeed. There are maybe many problems getting a fertilized egg to implant, and even if implantation happens, she may not be able to carry the pregnancy to term. Quick side note before I wrap things up. One of the things that often gets pushed to the side during discussions of fertility and becoming a parent is that of adoption. So let me just throw this out there. There are currently over 100,000 children in the US who are waiting to be adopted. The bottom line is that if someone is really concerned about their biological clock ticking, I would encourage them to think about what's important to them. Do they want to be a parent now if they maybe can't become one later? Will they be supported by friends and family if they choose to freeze their egg or sperm? How do they feel about non-traditional ways of parenting? Once they've looked at all of their options, I would encourage a person to make the decision that feels best for them. Until next time, be safe and have fun.
Did you like that video? If so, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you'll know when new videos come out. Also check out the description to find out how to find me on Instagram, Medium, and Twitter. And make sure to check the description for links where you can submit your sex question.